Hey yo, what is going on guys, Cash and Clean here, and for today's video I'm going to be doing a more advanced gem tutorial guide like I mentioned in the last video. And if you haven't checked out the announcement from the last video, a lot of people have been getting a lot of Flux. So if you want to figure out how, check out the last video. I will link that in the description down below. And if you want to use my Trove referral link, I'll leave that in the description down below as well. Now, getting onto the video. So this video might not apply to you guys, but it's always worth checking out because you might have to do this later on in the future. So if you're brand new, stay tuned. And if you're more of a mid-game player / end-game player, you'll probably want to use this. So stay tuned for that as well. So in the last video, I talked a little bit about like what you should do with the gem, the power rank you should have, and you know everything about that. So once you reach level 15 on a gem and you know it's perfect, you got the stats that you want, it's the right power rank, that's your go ahead to level it up to 25. But if it's not the right stats, or you know if you have too much into critical hit or whatever the case may be, the power rank's too low, the max you want to go with it is level 15, then loot collect it. Obviously you'll make more gem dust, but in the last video I mentioned that if you have a gem at level 15 and it is above 1260 power rank, or you could actually just make do with it if it has like, you know, stats like this. For example, this is for my knight, so if you were to have stats like this and it was like 1250 1240, I guess you could make do with it. Just note that you'd have to do a little bit more augmenting. Like this one for example, this is 1648 power rank, so it's pretty close to being finished. It's about 100 power rank off, and I don't have a whole lot of augmenting to do. I know this is at 26, it's red, but there's no pearls on it or boosts, whatever you want to call it. If I had any builders precise focuses, the percentage would go up a decent amount, not a lot, but like a decent amount compared to these bottom two. And that's another thing I want to mention. So if you have two boosts on something, note that if you use a builder's precise focus, the percentage value isn't going to go up a lot as opposed to the other ones. So if I were to use a builder's precise focus on this one with one boost, it'll go up a little bit more compared to this bottom one with two, and then this will be the most since it has no boosts at all. And I kind of touched on this in the last video. So you want to go over to your gems tab and you have certain things to craft here. Don't worry about these. You don't want to use these. It's actually a waste of bound brilliance if you're crafting these to augment your gems, because you're not really getting much value out of it and you're kind of wasting your bound brilliance. But for whatever reason, if you do want to use this, if you want to get Heart of Darknesses, you can get them from shadow caches, and you get those from either delves, or you can get them from shadow shards from the shadowy market, or you could just buy them from the marketplace in general. And then obviously you got Flux here, and then you know your bound brilliance. So this is not a good one. You don't want to use this. I don't recommend it. What I do recommend is this one. It does require a lot of gem dust from you, but it is a lot more worth it to craft this one for sure. And if you're more of a mid / end game player, you could use this if you do not need the resources. This will give you a bigger boost, it'll use more Flux, and it'll use up your Titan Souls and your Diamond Dragonites, but it sometimes is worth it because you know you get your money's worth out of it with your, you know, bound brilliance at least. So if you have extra Flux lying around, if you have Titan Souls that you don't want to use, and if you have the all of the dragons that require, you know, a Diamond Dragon egg, so you don't need this anymore, you could craft this one. But I don't recommend it if you're like brand new, if you still need dragons, still need your Titan Souls and whatnot, and if you don't want to waste a lot of Flux. So yeah, this one's more expensive, this one's super cheap, this one's just right in the middle. It does require a decent amount of gem dust, but it is farmable, so you guys can do this one. Also, I do want to mention that this is my alt account, not my main account. That's why all of the stuff that I have on here is a low amount, so just in case you guys are wondering. So the next thing I want to talk about is Contain Chaos Sparks. So this is what you use to change a stat. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let's just say you have something like this. You have maximum health, I have a physical damage character, I want physical damage. This only works for the big empower gems. So if I wanted physical damage, not magic damage, you could change the big gem right over here. So what you would do is go over to your Contain Chaos Spark. I don't really have any right now, but what you would do is reroll and try to get lucky. It's really annoying to do because you'll get stats that you don't want. Just note that only the big gems you can get magic damage or physical damage. So like this for example, I talked about this in the last video as well, but if you have like a fierce gem, the fierce gems can only be physical damage and arcane can only be magic damage, so keep that in mind. But let's just say hypothetically this was max health and I wanted crit hit. What I would do is go over to the Contain Chaos Spark, use it over here, hit reroll, and see if I get lucky. Now moving on to these ones over here, the 3 boosts. So for this one, you would want to use Contain Chaos Flares, which moves it, but these are a lot more expensive to craft and a lot more harder to, you know, obtain. So let's go take a look. Go over to the bench gems, and it's right over here. You need 2 Contain Chaos Sparks to even make one of these, which is annoying because this requires Lunar Souls, and Binding of Darkness is kind of hard to get as well. And both of these are not tradable, so that is also annoying. So just keep in mind that these things are pretty valuable. You don't want to waste these. So let's just say, for an example, this stat right over here was critical hit, and this stat over here was physical damage. So to save yourselves some flares, what you could do realistically is use your Contain Chaos Spark on this, which would be like I said before, physical damage. Let's just pretend, so it'll reroll to max health. You could then switch this one to physical damage like it is right now. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys can imagine what I'm saying. But basically, if this was critical hit and this was, you know, max health, you could theoretically get rid of your quote-unquote critical hit that this would be on and change it to physical damage like it is right now, and then change the stats around with just Chaos Sparks. But if you have one of these boosts on everywhere, then I guess from there you could just use a Chaos Flare to just move that boost to a random stat. So hopefully that made sense. It's a little complicated, but it is really nice to, you know, be able to switch stats around like that. And if you do want to know what the max powering for the gems are, for the lesser ones, it's 1755, and then the bigger ones are 2251, I believe. Future me editing this video, those numbers are in fact correct. It is 2251 for the big ones and 1755 for the lessers. Alrighty, so just a quick detour over here. I'm gonna quickly go over how this chart or this spreadsheet works, and then I'll link it in the description down below, because if I talked about everything in here, this might be a really long video. Alright, so right now I'm currently looking at classes for Chloromancer, Dino Tamer, and the Tomb Raiser, and this is for maximum possible light, and this is assuming you have Crystal 4, the best, you know, the Permatorch and whatnot. This is including all of that. So in terms of your boost combinations, you have your Empower gems and you have your small gems. And if you want to know how to even read this thing, so the stat on the left, the left one is your damage, whether that's magic damage or physical damage. And then the one on the right is your crit damage. As you can see here, it's MD and CD. So currently right now we're looking at magic damage characters, so that's why it says magic damage, crit damage. And then for your lesser gems, you know, same thing, your damage and then your crit damage on the right. So I don't recommend you guys to use the rank number 1, which will give you the most amount of damage, because you could use anything from the top 50, even the top 100 for that matter, and your damage value won't really matter too much. So what I would recommend is take the boosts that you currently have and find something that is close to what you have and just work around that. I'm going to warn you guys right now, you will waste a lot of resources if you try to do whatever the rank 1 is. Sure, you'll get the absolute most possible damage from this, but it is not worth it at all, because going from rank 1 to rank 2, like, you're not missing out on a whole lot of damage. Like, you're not going to notice any difference at all. And if you notice at the very bottom here, like I said, Chloromancer, Dino Tamer, Tomb Raiser, this is for light, by the way. They also have Gunslinger, Ice Sage, you know, they have a lot of classes in here. Hopefully the chart makes a little bit more sense. So like I said, the left one over here, the number, that's your magic damage, and then the one on the right is the crit damage. And all of the ones here is for your Empower gems. All of the ones here are for your lesser gems. And this is to take, like, you have to keep in mind that this is with max light. So for your cosmics, every boost is going to be into light. So that's why you're not counting this. So this spreadsheet is just assuming that you have all your boosts into light. So with your other gems, you'd want to do whatever it is here that is shown. And obviously your coefficient, this is the max light at the moment of me recording this video. And then, you know, your base damage and, you know, whatnot. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to link this down in the description down below so you guys can check this out if you want the max possible light. I will also provide a spreadsheet for the other boost combination for non-max light people. So if you don't want max light for whatever reason, which I don't know why you wouldn't at this very moment for Trove, but I will link both in the description down below. But let me quickly go over the other spreadsheet because that one's a little bit more complicated. So yeah, this is the other spreadsheet, and it's, you know, pretty straightforward. You know, Fate Trickster, Gunslinger, Ice Sage, Neon Ninja, no subclass, Neon Ninja, and then like it's pretty specific on what it asks for here. But the combinations might be a little confusing for you guys, but it's the same thing as the last one. So the one on the left here, these two numbers, these are for your Empower gems. So you know, the first one is your damage, and then the one over to the right is your crit damage. And then for your lessers, you know, same thing, damage and crit damage. And then the plus value, this is adding your cosmic gems now. The last one didn't, because that's just assuming you have max light. This one isn't. So this is for your max possible damage, which I don't recommend doing at all, but in case you do want it, I'm just providing that for you guys. And this is pretty straightforward too. The two on the left, this is your Empower gems. So the first one is your damage, the next one is your crit damage, and then the next two is your lesser gems for your cosmics. That's going to be your damage and then your crit damage. And like I said before, don't go for the one that's rank 1. Do whatever you're closest with. You know, anything in the top 100 will be just fine. Even below that, like, it's not the end of the world or anything. Like, you're not missing out on a whole lot of damage. This spreadsheet has other classes as well. You know, like Candy Barb, Rev, you know, you got your Dracolite. You got a bunch of classes here. So if you want these spreadsheets, I will link them down in the description down below. Alrighty, so that's gonna be it for today's video. Hopefully everything I said makes sense to you guys. I know it's a little bit complicated, but I'm sure you guys will get it. And I'm just hoping that I didn't miss anything, because if you missed something from this video, I'm sure the last video that I made about gems will cover it for you. And the announcement that I made from the last video, I'm gonna make the giveaway thing that I have going on and this upcoming Wednesday, so keep that in mind as well if you guys are still in the process of that. And on that note, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like, subscribe if you are new, and if you want to be responsible for the next video, drop something down in the comments down below and you could be responsible for the next video. And on that note, I will see you guys later.